You need me there too?
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Yes, if you didn't see us a whole lot on the air last week, you're right, because we were out. Candy and I were out in the Midwest and Toronto and Niagara Falls, but we did have a show out in the Metro Detroit area at the Black Rock Bar and Grill, and that was inside the Pigskin. With that said, we're back here doing baseball, and I will be back in Detroit next week as well. So our next edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk will be 2 weeks from tonight. With that said, I have my dynamic duo here with me, and that's with Mark Meredith. Welcome back, Mr. Barber.
How you doing, my friend?
Peace, my brother. We know that you've definitely earned a staple with this show here, and of course George Eichhorn, the other part of our dynamic duo.
Oh, good to be on again, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Have some good topics to get to, folks. So without further delay, but before I do that, just give everybody an idea what we're going to talk about. Talk about the Miami Marlins. Yes, they're in the news again, and they made a big trade over the weekend. We're going to talk about the Oakland A's, our favorite team. My goodness. And we're going to talk a little bit of Max Scherzer and Kevin Cash. And then, of course, George and Mark will be entitled to their parting shots if indeed they have a few as well. I'm going to go silent on that and let them do my talking for me. With that said, okay, let's get to it. Marlins president Peter Bendix goes on record that the team is unlikely going to make the playoffs. The team outfielder Dylan Head, who's 19 years of age, outfielder Jacob Marcy, who's 23, Japanese reliever Wook Suk Go, and then first baseman Nathan Mortarella. Well, spelling in May. Okay, now bear in mind, Arias, his first night with the Padres, got in the Padres record book is what they ended up doing, as he ended up hitting 4 hits his first night. So, all right, Mark, we're going to start with you this time. Do you think that Peter Bendix pulled the plug too prematurely? He seems to think that he got the best return on investment doing it early, and only he would know. But what do you think?
I think it's a little early. I agree. We're about a quarter of the way, roughly a quarter of the way through the season, and unless you're willing to throw in the towel and just start a rebuild right now for next season, it's a little too early. You don't know how things are going to play out in June. You just don't. You basically have the whole month of May to go yet as well. So you've got May, June, and part of July with the All-Star, leading up to the All-Star game. We're around the halfway there. I don't know. I just think that if he knew he was going to do that, if he knew he was going to pull the plug like that this early, he should have an alternative plan to move other guys to.
All right. Well, bear in mind,
as he can.
Well, bear in mind, too, that the Marlins are giving cash consideration to the Padres, so they're only going to be on the hook, I think, for the minimum. The Padres will be on the hook. Let's go to the chat room real quickly. What's going on, Joshua Dorr? Always love having this guy on. And, of course, no surprise being his playoff hockey is I am dialed in onto the Panthers and won't be on here too long tonight. But, Joshua, if you do stay on, I'll be more than happy to go ahead and put your Panthers updates here as well, and we can inform everybody. So please keep that in mind. Josh, a great friend of the show. So, all right, George, your thoughts about the Marlins making the move right away?
Well, I'm telling you guys, this is really, really sad situation. I mean, I know what they're trying to do. Obviously, they got to shake up the team. They're 14 and a half games out. Just a miserable start for the Marlins, and you're trying to shake the boot, rattle the locker room a little bit, show that you've got some more punch coming your way. But these kids that they got, are darn good prospects. I mean, I think that they did get a lot in return. I don't know a lot about them, but I mean the fact that they were, some of the top 50 prospect in the top 50 of that they're getting in return. I think that's a good sign. The problem is again, when you're that far in the hole, when you got only 9 wins and you're 14 and a half or whatever out, it's such a long hill to climb. So it reeks of, I hate to say this, but waving the white flag. That being said, I mean, okay, so you're building for the future now. You're building for the future. These kids are not all ready to be on your roster right now. We know that. So it's going to take a little bit of time. It's really sad, I mean, it all started back when Kim was let go as general manager, and things have kind of
Right.
spun out of control since then. I know that's another story on the Marlins, but right now, Scott, I would say, yeah, it was a little bit early, too early for my take on this.
Yeah, you know what? I agree. I mean, there's a fine line about when you make the move. He just feels he could get more now, which I understand. But you're talking to a fan base which has been dealing with a lot of fire sales, especially after postseason baseball. Bear in mind, though, that Peter Bendix comes from the Tampa Bay Rays, and they're used to working along a small budget, so it's not like he's not familiar with a lower tier payroll is what he's doing. So,
yeah,
so Bruce Sherman obviously brought him in, and as a result, in Peter Bendix we trust. The question is right now is how bad will it get, and how many more moves will come shortly thereafter is what I wonder about. If he made this move now, what's going to happen with some of the other players? That's another story. So, now let's go to the chat room again. All right, Candy. All right, Joshua Dorr, no score at the end, middle of the first period. Motors. Yeah, that's me, Jimmy. Glad to have you on here. D Lowe's. There we go. What's going on? We're going on. Panthers check. There we go. Bring them all up there. These guys are dedicated, diehard Panthers fans, and obviously that's an important game for those folks in these parts. So you're talking about Peter Bendix, who obviously knows what small market baseball, and that's why Bruce Sherman brought him in here. They're trying to go out there and duplicate the Tampa Bay Rays model. All right. So, question for the barber. What do you have tonight, Boston or Florida? Who are you going with?
I'm going Florida. I think Boston got lucky against Toronto. They had that offsides, the icing that they did not call. That resulted in the game changing the difference in that game and playing much better hockey than Boston.
Oh.
I think the way Boston struggled against Toronto was just amazing. I like Toronto, but I think they got to blow that whole thing up in Toronto. I'm going Florida. I would not be shocked if Florida did this in 6.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned with the Panthers, they'll go as far as Sergei Bobrovsky takes them. You have a hot goaltender in the playoffs. You know what that really means.
Yep.
It means you're going deep into the playoffs for sure. So now Jimmy W says Jesse Silver loves Boston cream donuts. Okay, well, we'll see whether or not the Panthers do the Boston Massacre. I had to throw that analogy out there. So really, to summarize the whole thing, I think we all do agree that they were premature. Now the question is will Bendix make another move right away pretty soon if he feels he's got an offer that he can't refuse? And if he does, it'll be a long summer in Miami, that's for sure. But there's always an alternative in town. You can go to Inter Miami and watch Messi.
Hey, look, in my opinion, if he's going to start doing it on May 6th or May 5th or whenever yesterday, I can't remember. It was Saturday. If he's going to do that now, he needs to dangle whoever he can out there to get it, whatever he can out of those guys. That's the bottom line. I mean, why hang on to him? Because you're not going anywhere. You know that you've already made the commitment to kind of packing the season in, as I said earlier. Make the commitment for the rebuild. Get what you can, the maximum out of these guys.
Well, I think the one thing that we can't lose sight of in this particular situation is this. Okay. We're going to find out how good the Miami Marlins farm system really is. Whether these guys can make immediate contributions, which one's going to make the club right away, I don't know. We'll find that out. There's other episodes that we're going to talk about it anyways. But we're going to find out what you have over in Jacksonville. We're going to find out what you have out in Pensacola. So, and that's the biggest thing right there. And if you have some prospects that are ready, that's one thing. Now, bear in mind, as I segue to the next topic, okay, we're going to talk about the Oakland A's, and one of the prospects that the Marlins dealt was a guy by the name of J.J. Bleday. I bring him up because now we're going to talk about our favorite team, the Oakland A's. In 2023, they started off 17-50. In 2024, guess what? They're 17-17. How quickly things have changed. So with that said, George, let's talk about Oakland. Are you surprised that they've been able to improve drastically like this?
Yeah, I am, Scott. I didn't foresee this coming, and the reason why is because, like you said, all the unsettled business they had there looming over them, such as the uh, stadium situation and the lack of movement on getting a new stadium out in Oakland, and then of course the decision to move to Sacramento, I believe it is,
Right.
uh, for future seasons. So here they're sitting 17 and 18. They're only 2.5 games out behind Seattle in what so far looks like a very weak division, the AL West. But again, it's so early. It's way early. But again, they're in contention. They're 2.5 out. I would have never thought it. But you know what? What that shows me is that this team and the management is still taking seriously the product on the field. And that's the important thing. You can't get the play. If you're a player or if you're a manager or coaches, you can't get wrapped up in all of the empty seats. You can't get wrapped up in all the negativity coming out of the newspapers or the radio or TV in Oakland. You just have to go out there and play your game. And I'm glad that the A's are doing that. I mean, it's still very early, but the fact that they're hovering near 500, I think is good. And there's a future for baseball. Maybe not, obviously not in Oakland. We already know that, but at least the team is putting on a competitive show. I like that. That's what I like about it, Barber and Scott.
Okay. Well, all right, Mark, pick it up.
Uh, the Pittsburgh Pirates visited the A's last week and they swept them. And they didn't just sweep them, my friends. They swept them handedly. Like they played really good baseball. Now, the Pirates couldn't hit the ball. Don't get me wrong, but they played really good, sound baseball. It was a very impressive sweep to me. Again, it's the Pirates. I get it. Although the Pirates are won 3 of the last 4 since then. But I think Oakland needs to stay the course. They always seem to find some golden gems in that organization, and they push themselves to the brink of getting to where they need to be. And then all of a sudden they're fire selling to restock the cupboard for whatever reason. I do think that division, like you said, George, weak division with the Angels and Seattle, weak division. I think they could be very, very competitive in that division.
All right, back to the chat room, Candy. Okay, Rocket Scientist has a question for the barber. What's your favorite type of donut?
My favorite donut would be chocolate frosted with vanilla cream. No doubt about it.
Rocket Scientist, you're making me hungry. Really? Seriously? Okay, but we have to put it up anyways. All right. All right, so let's go ahead. And the other question here is, all right, we got the merch store. I think that Candy mentioned it. Not yet, but real soon, but we will let you know. All right, now back to Rocket Scientist 95. All right, I'm going to spend my whole paycheck on merch when it goes live. Very good. And we're looking forward to getting it out there. All right, and Joshua Dore, we'll give you your dog check for the night. Dog check, okay. All right, question for the barber. How many haircuts today? You know that's going to be a weekly question when you're coming on here.
Hey, man, under 5 today. Money was tight for these people. It's not a pay week.
No. All right, now, as far as my perspective on the whole thing, I've been predicting all along they were going to Sacramento. Guess what the A's get to do? They don't have to worry about where they're going. They can finally relax and play baseball. My goodness.
Excellent point.
Excellent point. All they have to do is just sit back and play baseball. They don't have to worry about where they're going. They don't have to worry about this stuff about playing in Oakland to near empty stadiums. Now they can just draw whatever crowds are. I think they have 12,000 for the Marlins game the other day in the final game of the series, which Miami did win 12-3. And bear in mind, Oakland did pull out a 20-4 win the day after. Okay, Arias was traded, and everybody's, oh goodness, my gosh.
Yeah.
So, it's just one of those things where now the A's can sit back, relax, play baseball, ride out the rest of the year, and whoever shows up, shows up. Otherwise, get ready for Sacramento for a few years and then ultimately Vegas. So there's nothing wrong with relaxing and playing baseball, because when you do that, then you play loose baseball and you don't think about none of the distractions. And I'm glad a lot of that was solved earlier in the year. Couple topics I want to get you. Unless Mark, you want to add something to that?
Scott, I did want to add something to that. Here's the irony behind that. You've got the Arizona Coyotes. I know I'm using a hockey reference here, guys.
So I don't care. It's okay.
You got the Arizona Coyotes. They're moving to Salt Lake City, and you have guys jumping off board. I'm not going to Salt Lake City. They lost 1 or 2 guys already. With these guys in Oakland, they can be comfortable making that move to Sacramento, still nil their homes for the most part. And you're right. They can go ahead and play baseball and not have to worry about uprooting and moving and doing things like that. Where those guys in Arizona, they're like, I'm not going to do that.
I mean, I've taken the ride from Oakland to Sacramento. You only took like 90 minutes at the most, depending on traffic, so it's not that far away. No. I remember covering a Sacramento Kings game and then a Warriors game and on the same trip, so it wasn't that big of a deal. Then you ultimately wind up where you're going to go out to Lake Tahoe, is where I was at, so it wasn't a big deal. So, yeah, no, I'm happy that they can relax. As far as the Coyotes situation, I've known for many years that was a train wreck from the minute they went there. So, and George and I know that story's been told 9 million times over.
We sure do.
All right, our main topic for the night, and I know we're going to have I'm sure we'll have a lot of people sound off on this one, is Max Scherzer says we need to rank the umpires, let the electronic strike zone rank the umpires. We need to have a conversation about the bottom. Let's call it 10%, whatever you want to declare the bottom is, and talk about relegating those umpires to the minor leagues. All right, I'm glad this topic has come up. George, what are your thoughts about it? I know we don't talk about the umpires a lot, but this one's a great one tonight.
Well, I got news for Max Scherzer. The umpires are rated. They're rated every single day, every single game that they work. And so are the other officials in the top 4 major league sports. Make that 5 with soccer. I'm not trying to say he's off target, but I will say this. There has been a lot of change. There are a lot of guys that have left in the last several years. You guys know this. A lot of the veterans walked out. And I don't know what they're fed up with, but I'm sure they're fed up with the possibility of maybe more ratings and rankings and getting out of the sport when they still got a chance. I don't know the reason why, but they have lost so many good names, good guys, crew chiefs over the last few years. Now, the 2 guys that everybody likes to complain about are obviously CB Buckner and Angel Hernandez.
Right.
Those are the 2 guys that I think, crawl under the skin of major league players, coaches, and managers, because unfortunately we still see mistakes, we still see errors, and there are other umpires obviously that have bad days or whatever you want to call it, but those 2 guys, I got to scratch my head on that. Both those guys, of course, we all know Angel Hernandez sued Major League Baseball. He did not win that lawsuit, but they did keep him on as an employee, and he's back again for this year. He's one of the most senior tenured umpires out there. All I'm saying is this. If the guy is consistently bad, which has been shown over a number of years, and I'm sorry, Angel, you and CB are in that category in my mind, then I think you should be relegated to the minor leagues or just retired from baseball umpiring.
Okay, Mark.
So in soccer in Europe, you start out at one level and you have to earn your way up. And if you don't maintain, you drop back down. It should be much the same as that in the sports and with officiating. You see the same thing in football. You see the same thing in hockey. George just dropped a couple of names. Angel Hernandez, probably the most famous of all of them. I have no pity saying he's a horrible baseball umpire. He is. We all see it. It's black and white. But because we know that, he should have to go backwards and revise his game before he gets the opportunity to move forward. How many guys you think are in the minor leagues that have been there for years and do an outstanding job, but there's no room to move to get to where they want to get? It's just it's unfair and it's uncalled for. I also believe those guys should be fined when they blow calls that are significant to the game.
Well, there's one.
You have instant replay. I was going to say, you have instant replay now. When you blow a call and you have instant replay to use to fix whatever you blew, that's really bad.
There you go. No, that's an excellent point. All right, you know what? I enjoy the chat room so much, so I'm going to go back to how the dog here. All right, how much are you charging for a kid's cut? Why, do you plan to take a ride up to Maryland and go ahead and get one from them? It'll cost you more in gas than it will be for the cut, but how much you charge anyways?
$8 for kids.
There you go. All right, let's see.
Very reasonable.
Yeah, there you go. So there you go, dog. If you want to spend $8 for a haircut and a ton for gas, go ahead. Mark will be more than happy to cut your hair. High stick Panthers, no good. Kosher nuggets. All right, there you go. A little bit of that. All right. Here's the word that we need to really emphasize on is accountability. Accountability. Number one, umpires should be sent to the minor leagues if they're underperforming. I'm totally with Max all the way around. But I think you do have to have accountability. And in my opinion, if electronic strike zones are going to do it, so be it. I think Major League Baseball is worth to implement so many different rule changes anyways. At some point, they're going to get around to this particular change. But the one thing that has to be understood about what's going on with this, it's the last thing you want are umpires becoming the show for themselves. For example, when Aaron Boone got thrown out of the game because a fan went ahead and spoke, give me a break, umpires. It's your job, okay, to umpire the game and not steal the headlines. Remember that, okay? And that's how I've always looked at it. So, yeah, electronics, anything that holds the umpires' accountability, demoting them to the minor leagues, I'm all for it. And Max, to me, you're right on point. All right, Joshua, what do you got there? One question only. All right, I want to hear it. All right, what is it, Joshua? All right, here we are waiting for it. No. All right, one question. All right, fastest chat room. Yeah, we're going pretty fast. This show's moving, has a lot of good pace to it. It's like pace of the game in baseball, right? We don't have a shot clock, or a pitch clock here. We're just rolling along real well. Joshua, when you come up with that question, let me know. Meanwhile, Candy Emily can come on there and give everybody an opportunity about what we're about here. Go ahead, Candy.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to 108 Stitches Baseball Talk, which comes on Monday nights. Tuesday night is Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights, Sports Exchange and Motor City Mad Mouse Show. Watch for details. Thursday night is Pundit's Pundit and Fire Up. You can catch us on wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're there. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. You can read all our latest updates. You can read stories that Scott's wrote, George's wrote, Smoking Jeremy B. You can find all of our videos. You can find, if you go to our YouTube channel and you subscribe or you just want to go look, we even have the coach from Inter Miami from this past weekend's game in his press conference. And yes, the whole thing is in Spanish. So if you know Espanol, you'll be able to understand it. But if you'd like to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. Scott actually wrote a book. It is called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Google, Apple. It is available on Amazon, Kindle, or oh my goodness, why can't I think? Scott?
Yeah, Barnes and Noble, Google, Apple.
Well. And George wrote a book too. His book is Detroit Sports Broadcaster, and that's available on Amazon as well. But back to the show.
Okay, well, Joshua, when is hockey? Well, I like to keep a lot of those topics on Wednesday night on the Sports Exchange. That's your first question. When am I going to do a badminton show? I'll tell you what. Okay, here's the deal, Joshua. When you're ready to host a badminton show, okay? There you go. If you want to host a badminton show and you're good enough to go ahead and do it, I'm open, especially to my loyal people. When are we going to do? You're going to be the host. You're not going to be the guy who just fits in. You got to do it. Okay. Question. So, all right. Question for Scott: are you going to get into sports gambling? No, I don't get into that. You made $110. Well, more power to you, rocket scientist. I don't spend that kind of money. And Joshua Dorr, well, you know what? He made $370. If you're going to drive those cars, what do they call those vehicles that are you self-drive?
Oh gosh, yeah, self-driving vehicles.
Yeah, then I guess he can afford $300. He can earn $370. Of course, he won't spend much on gas because I think they're electrically powered. So, but he says, tell you what, rocket scientists giving you an idea. I think the barber should write a kid's book about sports. You know what? I'm sure the barbers probably contemplated that idea. Then again, everybody in this industry has always contemplated the idea of writing books.
Two things. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a teacher. That's my full-time gig. That's how I make my money. So me writing a kid's book would be very easy to do because I deal with kids all the time. The second thing, I'd like to take one small step back and go back to the umpires. Did you know
Sure.
that those guys, as of 2022, made anywhere between $235,000 and $340,000 doing their job? Shit, I don't make that in 2 years, fellas.
Right.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
That's
to
a lot
screw
of
up.
money, but it's not a lot, Mark, when you look at the salaries of all the baseball players.
Which is outrageous in and of itself.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah.
And like you guys said, Scott, you nailed it, man. That one word, accountability. Accountability.
Right. Well, that's what it comes down to is accountability. If they have to be sent to the minor leagues, so be it. I mean, players are sent there all the time, and a lot of times managers go through the minor leagues to get to the major leagues. I've seen it time and time again. So
Yeah.
so I'm definitely on board with what Max has to say. Electronic strike zone, they're trying to do a lot of different things to get the games right. And I'm going to drift back to a point that you ended up making, Mark, and that's this, okay? That when you look at the fact that they have instant replay, whether they're going to go, I don't think they'll do instant replay to overturn calls. That's taking it to a certain extreme. But it's all a checks and balance system. Everybody has to go out there and do it. And you don't want these calls occurring at the wrong spots. These guys play too many games. All right, so here, Joshua Dorbing, as Mark is a teacher, he should host the professor and the pupil. Yeah, that's a good one. You never know. I might keep you in mind for that. So everybody's versatile around this joint. Now, the last topic I want to get to tonight talks about Cash, but this time it's Kevin Cash. He's 46 years of age. He's the all-time winningest manager in Tampa Bay Rays history, passing Joe Maddon with 755. Anybody want to be synonymous with 755? It's Hank Aaron, but in this case, it's Kevin Cash. Mark, I mean, to be able to win 755 games in Tampa Bay with a team that's on a shoestring and that focuses on development is unbelievable. What are your takes about Kevin Cash?
I think that he does an outstanding job managing the talent that they give him to work with. He's got a great cast of guys that he works with around him to help coach these guys up. But I also feel like they bring in people that meet their needs in their system in terms of players and in terms of coaches. The only way it can work when you have, like you said, a shoestring contract, you're just not paying anybody per se, is great development the whole way through the system. And to keep it going consistently, that's where the bottom line has got to be. You've got to have the right people who are developing the guys so that they can get to the major leagues and prove that they were developed the right way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed what Cash has done behind Maddon. Everybody thought that when Joe Maddon left, that the Tampa Bay Rays was going to sink back to where they were, but no. Kevin Cash has done a great job. A younger manager relating to today's players. You want to talk about a home run hire to follow another manager. Kevin Cash was exactly that home run hire. I don't care about the fact that you may say, not you, Mark, per se, but that he pulls pitchers prematurely. Well, he has to. This team's on a budget right there where you can't afford to keep going through 9 million different players anyhow. And he's figured out the analytical part is what he's done to be able to accommodate them. So I have no problem with the way he manages and how he takes his players out when he feels he has to do. The record speaks for itself. All right, George, you close out the topic since I did that. And then we'll go with parting shots to end the night. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, tonight is not one of their best standings-wise. I mean, we're talking about Cash tonight. He's 17 and 18, but come on, it's a long season. I have to echo your sentiments, guys. I have such admiration for Kevin Cash, his ability to work with the ball players, no matter if they're young or old, and his coaching staff. Like you said, he coaches people up. His staff is really good. It's a shame that they don't support him, and that's a whole nother story. And Scott's been there. You know that whole story with Tampa St. Pete's and the location of that crazy dome stadium and all that crap. He's put up with all of that. He's continued to maintain a consistently winning ball club that's in the playoff hunt year after year after year without spending all that money like the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Cubs and the Nationals all do. But listen, this guy is, to me, he's a modern genius, a modern Connie Mack to me. I really do. This guy is a surefire Hall of Famer. I'll tell you what, like you said, if he's on a shoestring budget, it doesn't show because what he does is he's got excellent coaches and excellent teaching moments for these players. And I can't say enough about him. And it is, in a way, it is to be ashamed that he's in a city that doesn't support his team. But see, that's because he puts his life and he loves that part of Florida. I'm sure his family loves living there. And I mean, he doesn't want to have to go, manage the Yankees or manage the Cubs or manage the Dodgers. Right now, he's very happy where he's at. They are always in contention. And hats off. I'm glad you brought him up tonight, Scott, because and like the barber said, this guy's first class all the way.
I mean, think about it for a second. The guy got 755 wins, and he's only 46 years of age. If he continues to manage for a long period of time, there's a guy that in no time could be moving up that wins ladder to a point where he'll be passing some elite company. I mean, Sparky Anderson is one of them. I'm sure we can name a lot of different guys. Sparky Anderson is one guy. Tony La Russa. The list goes on and on.
Cleveland. I mean, there's been guys that have. It's
but 755 wins at age 46, and we're early in the year. He's going to be over the 820 mark by the end of 2024 at the rate he's going. This is early in the season, folks, is what it is. And Kevin Cash, to me, they still haven't put the shovels in the ground in St. Petersburg. I'm still trying to figure out how this thing is going to play out, although it should have gone to St. Hillsborough County and Tampa, but that'll be for another time anyways. But I'm still trying to figure out what's going on out there after all this hype that was bannered around it being next to the old stadium. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I will acknowledge Kevin Cash all day long, that he's made a lot out of nothing there. And to me, he's just truly unbelievable. And yes, we know he could have certainly had fared a lot better in larger markets, but you're right. He's happy in Florida. Why not? It's a beautiful state to live in. There's no state income tax here. And I don't think he's worried about job security because he knows his ownership and general manager realize that this guy here has done a marvelous job and he's keeping us competitive.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And he did take his team to a World Series, albeit they fell short, but it's not the point. They still took them there. All right. This is the point of the show where everybody gets parting shots. George Eichhorn, lead off.
Well, I'm going to do a parting shot, but it's not going to be a very pleasant one. The Tigers are in contention. Okay, they were 18-13. Then they went into that place called the Bronx, and they could not score any runs. And they lost 3 straight. Tonight, they couldn't score any runs, and Cleveland beat them. First game of that series. So the Detroit Tigers, as much as the pitching has been very, very good, both the starters and the bullpen, if they do not pick up their hitting, this is going to be a long season. I know everybody wants to be optimistic in Detroit, but you got guys like Spencer Torkelson and Colt Keith and Parker Meadows and Baez. These guys, they're not hitting worth a darn right now, and this has to pick up. You talk about a good manager. I got a lot of respect, guys, for A.J. Hinch, but something's got to be done. You can't blame it on the cold weather. These players were hitting the ball pretty good in Lakeland. They had a very nice season, exhibition season, Grapefruit League season. And I know those are just pretend games, but still, they were bad and they were hitting really well, these guys. Then they come into the opening part of the season and they did very, very well. But now all of a sudden, these guys, these young guys, they need time. They need more coaching. You must still coach these fellas because they got potential. Doesn't necessarily translate into a 250 and above average because we certainly are not seeing that in Detroit. So I guess what I'm saying is you can't have it both ways. I mean, either the fans are going to accept the fact that they have a young roster, or the fans are going to say, I'm not going. I'm not going to pay to go see them if they can't score runs and drive runs in. Something's got to give, but Tiger fans are still hoping for the best. That's my 2 cents, Scott.
Okay, well, I'll add a little something to that, and then I want to go to Candy Evelyn's comment. I'm still waiting for a bat that I can fear in the middle of that lineup. I don't fear anybody right now.
Right.
Everybody had Miguel Cabrera for a while, and then you had a bunch of other guys back in the day. You had Prince Fielder, and then you had Maglio. There's nobody that I can fear. All right, let's go to Candy Evelyn's comment. Besides pitchers in the DL, who else can Miami trade? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a question that Peter Bendix would probably be more than happy to answer for you. So, but I don't fear anybody in that Tigers lineup. I really don't. The Tigers came out of the gate as a team that was heavily favored to do some good things. Still a long year. Let's just hope they don't get into a prolonged losing streak, which will knock them right out and force them to rethink otherwise. But I don't fear anybody in that lineup. All right, Mark, close it out.
I do want to tell you though, George, those City Connect uniforms that they got, those kick butt. Those are pretty nice. I will say that for your Tigers. I'm going to make an early season prediction on what I think the World Series is going to be. This is what I think. I think it's going to be Philly and Baltimore.
Interesting.
I think it's going to be Philly and Baltimore. There's a lot of depth in Baltimore. Still in the minor leagues, can come up and help as needed. I mean, look at Jackson Holiday. He floundered. He's not going to come back up anytime soon. But they have so many other guys that are young that they can bring up. And Philadelphia went out and spent a boatload of money on guys, and they're just getting the production out of them. Wheeler had 11 strikeouts. Harper had another home run today, and they're getting production. I know it's early. We keep saying that. I get it. But I could see these teams riding the wave, and at the end of the day, I think that would be a really good World Series.
Well, number one, Baltimore is under new ownership, so they don't have to worry about the team going anywhere. So that'll certainly – you talk about the common theme in this whole broadcast tonight. Number one, okay, all Oakland has to do is relax and play baseball. All the Baltimore Orioles have to do is relax and play baseball because ownership is in capable hands. Not that the Angelos didn't do that great of a job because they did win a little bit under them. But now you have a new ownership where they can relax and just play ball. Of course, Cal Ripken Jr. is on that ownership team as well, so they can relax. So pretty hard to go against what your logic is there, Mark. As far as Philadelphia Phillies, any team that has Bryce Harper, you never rule them out. I don't care. Bryce Harper is one of the few players that can play in any era. I don't care what anybody says. Any era. He could have played in 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, the way he runs in the walls, the way he connects the ball, and his passion for the game. I wouldn't be too embarrassed with that prediction. I don't know if I go there yet. It's a little early, but,
I agree.
Dave
Dombrowski's there as president of baseball ops.
Right.
Dave is a winner wherever he goes. I'm not going to dispute you, Mark, but don't kid yourself. The LA Angels are going to have a lot. I'm sorry, wrong team. LA Dodgers are going to have a lot to say about who comes out of the National League again, or are they going to fold again? We'll see. But I would say either Philly or LA. And I'm not going to argue with you against Baltimore. They had a wonderful year last year, and I know they'll follow up this year probably with just as many wins.
Yeah.
Well, rocket scientist brings up an interesting point. The Houston Astros will be irrelevant because the Houston fan base did not appreciate Dusty Baker, but boy, I'll bet they wish they had him there now. Dusty Baker is more than a manager. What he is a stabilizing influence in the clubhouse. That's the one thing. And he got sick and tired of being questioned and all that. He wasn't having fun. He decided to get out of the game. He's with the Giants. So good point there, rocket scientist. Where's I love Dusty? Well, you know what, rocket scientist? I do love Dusty, but at least the one thing I say about Dusty, he does have a world championship ring, and he did get it with Houston, so more power to him. Great show tonight, obviously. We have an update here. No Panthers and the Bruins, no score at the end of the first period. So with that said, no 108 Stitches baseball talk next week as I'll be in Detroit, but we'll be back on a regular schedule 2 weeks from tonight. With that said, George, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
All right. You can find me on the South Florida Tribune. I write under the Motor City Tribune page. At the end of my column, there's a link there. And thanks for putting my book up there. Scott's in my book. And I was happy to write obviously honored to write the foreword for his book. And my book is about Detroit sports broadcasting and Michigan broadcast history. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com and on LinkedIn at George Icorn. You can also find me on Twitter at X, whatever they call that thing. It's Sand G Sports 99. And of course, you can find me on 108 Stitches and Sports Exchange on this wonderful South Florida Tribune network. Good being part. Thank you.
All right, Mark, by the way, we appreciate all your help on social media too as well. If there's anybody that's more dedicated to getting it around than you're definitely one of them. We appreciate that. With that said, you can go ahead and let everybody know how they can get a hold of you and what you was doing.
Oh, okay. We'll be on. We'll be releasing tomorrow's episode. It's a little early, so we're going to do a tape delay tomorrow. We're going to be talking about basically the mishmash in sports that's going on, but it's going to be embedded with a lot of controversial stuff. We're going to talk about the fight and that happened last weekend, and I don't want to ruin it. I'm going to give you a tease right there. But we have a lot of stuff going on. With that, we have some really cool guests coming up too on the show. We're Original Sports Podcast with Mark Maraday. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us everywhere. We're on Roku on Tuesday nights from 9 to 10. We're always looking for your input, for show ideas, and we're always looking for fun guests to bring on.
All right, Candy, take us the rest of the way.
If you enjoyed this broadcast, you better subscribe to our YouTube channel at South Florida Tribune at YouTube.com. On the YouTube, you can watch Monday nights baseball, Tuesday nights Inside the Pigskin or football, Wednesday nights Sports Exchange. You never know what we're going to talk about. Josh, it could be badminton, it could be bowling, it could be NFL, it could be cornhole. You just never know. You got to stay tuned to find out. And Wednesday night's Motor City Mad Mouse show, which will be moving to a new network, and we will tell you when and all the details. Stay tuned for that. Thursday nights, Fire Up, as well as Pundit's Pundit. This week we're going to have a special guest, so make sure you tune in Thursday night. If you like to listen to podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can listen to us. iHeartRadio, Google, Apple, Spotify, Spreaker, CastBox, Deezer, Geo7, you name it, we're there. Go to our website, please, www.southfloridatribune.com. You'll see Scott's writing, George writing, Smoking Jeremy B. You'll actually see pictures that I've taken of numerous sporting events. And we get updates from many of the different colleges, sports teams, as well as some of the professional sports teams down here in South Florida, as well as in Detroit. If you would love to sponsor our show or advertise, we'd love to talk to you. Call Scott, 954-304-4941. And I know I don't talk as fast as Scott, but if I talk too fast for you, just rewind and play it back. Everything is scrolling on the bottom of the screen there. But there is a book out there that Scott wrote. It talks about how the media industry has changed over his 40-plus years in the industry. It's called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It's available on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Apple, and Google Books as well. Get your copy today. Back to you, Scott.
All right, thank you very much, Candy. Also, you can find us on Twitter at Tribune South. And if you want to look for me on LinkedIn, Scott Morgan Roth, you can find me there as well. And you'll find a lot of us on Facebook. I want to thank everybody for their participation in the chat room. They know who they are. Rocket scientist Joshua Dorr was certainly the most. They were very active for sure. But we appreciate everybody that comes from Joshua's group here. These guys are really candid people, and we enjoy them and everybody else that participates on the various platforms that we go out there and put the shows on. So meanwhile, that concludes this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. So once again, 2 weeks from today, we'll be back in the same time, same place. So on behalf of George Eichhorn and Mark the Barber Maraday, my name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth, and Jonathan Hydock. Shout out to you as well for getting in there at the buzzer. Okay, so on behalf of my great crew here, we want to thank you very much for joining us tonight, and we will catch you the next time. Tomorrow night, we have Inside the Pigskin. So that show should start around 8 or 8:30 Eastern time. We'll keep you posted. So meanwhile, have a great night, everybody, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Enjoy the rest of your Monday night. Good night now.